Why calm starts feeling wrong when you're used to tension. There is a strange moment that many people do not understand. Things become quieter. Nothing is pressing. Nothing is collapsing. Nothing is obviously wrong. And instead of relief, something uneasy appears. Restlessness, suspicion, a subtle sense that something is missing. Calm does not feel safe. It feels wrong. From the outside, this makes little sense. If tension is painful, then calm should feel better. If pressure disappears, the system should relax. But that is not always what happens. Because the mind does not only adapt to what is healthy, it adapts to what is repeated. And if tension has been repeated enough, tension begins to feel normal. Not pleasant, not desirable, normal. It becomes the background the system learned to organize around. The pace, the vigilance, the inner tightening, the constant readiness for something to happen. When that structure is present, the system knows what to do. It knows how to scan, how to brace, how to prepare, how to remain psychologically occupied. But when calm arrives, that familiar structure weakens, and what appears in its place can feel unfamiliar, unstructured, and strangely exposed. This is the first mistake. The system interprets the unfamiliarity of calm as a problem, as if the absence of tension meant the absence of control, as if quiet meant vulnerability, as if peace meant something important was being missed. That is why calm can feel unsettling when tension has become the atmosphere you know how to live inside. What makes this pattern so difficult to recognize is that calm does not feel neutral. It feels suspicious. The mind begins to ask, why is it so quiet? What am I missing? Shouldn't I be doing something? Shouldn't I be preparing? These questions do not come because something is wrong. They come because tension used to provide orientation. When you are tense, the system has a task. It monitors, anticipates, stays ready. Tension creates movement. Even if that movement is painful, it feels organized. Calm removes that organization. Now there is less urgency, less inner noise, less pressure to react. And instead of recognizing this as relief, the system can experience it as absence, as if something essential has gone missing. This is why many people recreate tension without realizing it. They overthink. They reopen old concerns. They look for problems. They provoke pressure internally. Not because they want suffering, because suffering has become structurally familiar. It gives the day a shape. It gives the mind a role. It gives attention something to hold. Calm does not do that immediately. At first, calm can feel empty. Not because it is empty, because the system has not yet learned how to remain there without inventing a new reason to tighten. This is the hidden pattern. You do not always return to tension because life demands it. Sometimes you return to tension because calm still feels too unfamiliar to trust. This is why calm can start feeling unsafe at the exact moment nothing is actually threatening you. The system is not reacting to danger. It is reacting to the loss of familiarity. When tension fades, the old internal signals disappear. No urgency, no pressure, no need to brace. And without those signals, the mind can feel unstructured. It no longer knows what to organize itself around. So it starts searching for a problem, for a task, for a reason to become activated again. This searching can feel intelligent. You think you are being responsible. You think you are staying alert. But often, you are only trying to restore the inner atmosphere that feels most familiar. That is why calm can become difficult to sustain. Not because it is fragile,
because the mind keeps interpreting it through the logic of tension. It asks, what should I be doing now? What if this doesn't last? What if I relax too much? What if I stop paying attention and miss something important? These questions do not protect calm. They erode it. Little by little, the system moves back toward activation. And once activation returns, it feels strangely easier to inhabit. More effort, more pressure, more inner movement, but also more familiarity. This is the deeper conflict. The system may say it wants peace, but if it only knows how to function inside tension, peace will keep feeling psychologically unstable. And what feels unstable is difficult to trust.
This is where the pattern begins to loosen. Not when calm suddenly feels natural, but when calm stops being treated like a warning. The quiet is still there. The openness is still there. The unfamiliarity is still there. But now the system begins to see that unfamiliar is not the same thing as unsafe. That distinction matters, because once calm is no longer interpreted as a problem, the need to recreate tension starts to weaken. Not all at once, but enough. Enough for the mind not to search so quickly for the next source of pressure. Enough for stillness to remain for one moment longer without being interrupted. That moment is important because the system learns something new there, that nothing is missing, that no emergency is forming, that the absence of tension does not mean the absence of control. It only means the old structure is no longer dominating the whole field of experience. This is why calm can begin to feel different. Not exciting, not dramatic, just less suspicious. Less like a gap that needs to be filled. Less like a silence that must be broken by thought, worry, or preparation. And that change, quiet as it is, matters deeply. Because once calm is no longer treated as wrong, the system stops reaching for tension to feel real again. That is the deeper shift. Not forcing yourself to enjoy calm. Not pretending that peace feels natural before it does. Only seeing clearly that the urge to tense again is not always guidance. Sometimes it is memory. The memory of how the system learned to stay oriented. Once that is seen, something softens. Calm does not have to prove itself so quickly. It can remain unfamiliar without becoming threatening. It can remain quiet without being interpreted as emptiness. And little by little, the mind stops needing to fill every open space with tension just to feel that something real is happening. That is when calm stops feeling wrong. Not because it became intense, because it became livable. Because the system no longer reads it as the loss of itself, only as the absence of what used to dominate. And that is enough for a different kind of stability to begin. This is why real calm often feels almost invisible when it first begins. It does not announce itself as relief. It often appears as less pressure, less urgency, less need to be somewhere else. And because it is quiet, the mind can fail to recognize it as something valuable. It expects intensity. It expects movement. It expects inner noise to prove that something is happening. But calm does not prove itself that way. It asks for something harder. Trust without stimulation. The willingness to remain inside a quieter state without immediately replacing it with thought, worry, or self-generated pressure. That is the real threshold. Not whether calm feels perfect, whether you can stop treating calm like a problem to solve. Once that happens, something changes. The system no longer needs tension to feel oriented, and peace stops feeling like the absence of life. It
starts feeling like the absence of unnecessary strain. This is inner cognition.